German, so could you please hold him tight and just slam the door? That always works. Get it up.
I guess we need maybe some chairs. I think we're
So Ishi is going to take us through a Preside 101. So, over to me.
Yeah, hi, good morning. My name is Michael Naht. I'm a software developer for almost 20 years. Now I'm organizing CF Camp for, meanwhile, the 9th time. And yes, I'm showing you a bit of my daily work. So setting up Preside installation and see what is possible in Preside. So this is a very simple one. The things that changed over time is that meanwhile I need glasses. And okay, let's start working. So the prerequisites you need are a command box and MySQL. So we're going to start with just adding a new data source in MySQL and say, okay, here, new database. And we call it Preside CF Camp 2018. So this is just an empty database. And the next thing we do is we are starting our command box. Yes. Okay. Just clicking with the sound.
We lost you on that.
Oh, so sorry. Okay. So what you missed is just okay. Here creating a database. So that's a simple task. So okay, here we have our command box. Is it readable more or less? Maybe I think the font size. Well, okay, that's maybe a bit too big. So let me just take this one. Okay. So the first thing I just do is that I create a directory. And I'm going to this directory. And then at first, I need some Preside commands. There is a tool set in command box that you can use. And you can just install it by saying install Preside commands. So what is happening in the background is that command box is looking for a specific extension on ForgeBox and is going to install these commands for you. So that makes your life just a bit easier. So the next thing we do is we just say we are going to follow the basic instruction and say, okay, let's set it up with Preside new site. Okay. a small wizard is asking for us, okay, what would you like to install? So there are several options you can use at the moment. So if you say, okay, I have a block, you can use the block application that is already available. You can just say we need a basic application. You can say we need a web application. So this is getting rid of the parts of the content management system because you're just using the application stuff. Or you can say, okay, I just have a REST skeleton. So you can use that option. What we are going to do, we are using the basic one. So what is again happening in the background? You see command box is getting all the installation stuff from ForgeBox, all the packages, and is going to install anything in place. So we are getting the latest version, 10.10. And this takes a few seconds. And a few more seconds. And still a few more seconds. But well, it's really a big package. So you see it afterwards when I show you some code details. There is really a bunch of files that are downloaded for that. And okay, here we go. Everything is in place, and the next wizard is asking me about some details, and starting with a site ID. So the site ID basically is, okay, CF Camp presentation. The path to the administrator is just admin, to make it easier for me. There's a site name, so fancy presentation site. And I am the author. So basically that's it. And the wizard also says, okay, your site has been successfully initialized. The next thing is to Preside start a new server. Okay. What's going on now? We're asked for the database connection, and yes, we do that exactly right here. The database name is the name of the database we just created, which is called Preside CFCam 2018. The username and the password is a high security one. It is on my local host with the default port. Okay, and Preside is telling me it's starting the server. So here we are. Okay, what is happening right now in the background? So in the background, Preside is creating the whole application in the database for me. So all tables, all columns, all relations I need are set up right now in the background. And in about 1 minute, the application is fully installed and ready to run. And you see down there here, starting up the server. Okay, and now it's going to create all the tables and the necessary stuff. And afterwards, the content management system is ready to run. It is for you. This was faster at home. This, well, sure, takes a bit.
I think the initial bit might have been Lucy now because it checks command box because it checks like Lucy versions.
Ah, okay. Yeah. But it's really a bunch of. You do not want to see the original code that is creating the database. There are currently, I think there are about 114 tables with a lot of columns and stuff like this, and it's really a bunch of information that is created in the background. So, but when this is ready, in a few seconds, but this is live coding. This is
Dangerous.
Yeah, dangerous all the time. I know. And I have no fallback. I have no backup for that. So if this fails right now, I'm screwed. but it's still working. You know, there's no timer right now, but yeah, it takes some time for the first moment. And the problem is, so I have to catch up time because Dom took a few minutes more than he was expected to get. But promise me it worked. It worked yesterday, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Well. Now come on. I know you can do it. Okay. So what we already can do is prepare some other things. Like here is my code editor, and to demonstrate you some code later, I can already do this. Here is somewhere is my folder, Preside CFFcam, so I can already prepare that one and can show you what is going on here already. Ah, here we go. So finally, our content management system is ready to run. So what you already see here is the implemented basic layout on the Bootstrap 4 skeleton, which is just showing you the home page. And what we are going to do is have a look around at the administrator interface. And there is a lot of things to show. And we just do a quick walk around and see what's going on there. But honestly, yesterday in the evening, it was slightly faster. Okay, so the first time it's asking you for a username and a password. So we can just put in our an email address and a super secure password again. And set it up. And okay, he says he's ready. So we are logging in with the sysadmin code. And we are in the administrator interface. So the first thing you should recognize is that this path is exactly the thing we put into the wizard that we had on the beginning of this installation. And now we have the content management system with everything you need to run a website. So on the left side you have the menu showing you in the first place the site tree. And here, well, I do not show you all these things you know from other content management systems. Yes, it's a site tree, and yes, I'm able to add some pages. And this is, you know, that's here. There is no magic in there. So I have a page where I can just say, okay, my test page, and I'm able to put in some content. This is my content. And I can put in some metadata and date controls when to make this page available and stuff like this. And just hit the publish button. And calling in a new tab the home page. And you see, okay, here we have a link to our test page. And it shows some fancy information. Okay. So nothing difficult, but it's getting more interesting if you see what the other things can do here. For example, there is an asset manager, which allows you to store and manage all kind of assets you have in your application. Means images, sound files, PDF documents, stuff like this. And this is a very, very comfortable way to work with, because I can just go on and say, okay, upload something, and I'm going to choose a file, and of course it has some fancy drag and drop stuff and things like that, and I'm sure there is a very, very beautiful picture of me inside here. So I'll take this one and upload it. So, and here I have my image. The interesting thing about that is that I'm able to do some tweaks here, which means there is already something in that is called some cropping settings. And one of the things is that I have an option to set a focal point. And this is really a very interesting option. I've seen that so many times in different content management systems where you have images in a portrait format, and then you're trying to display in a landscape format. And the first thing that is happening is every head is cut off. So in here we can just say, okay, what I always want to see in the picture, regardless what format is created, I can say, okay, I need this point as center of my image. And Preside is trying to move it in the center as possible, as good as possible as it can. So you never get cut off heads if you're trying to crop images or resize them or things like that. And what is also quite interesting in here, you see that is here on the right side is already says version 1. So what I can do here is I can upload a new version. This is very, very handy because it is still the same asset. But if, for example, we have a PDF document and we have revision 1, revision 2, revision 3, you can just go ahead and say, okay, here's my new version. And wherever you used already this asset, it automatically updates the link to the latest version. And this is a really, really comfortable thing. I have seen so many systems where you're changing or uploading a new version and really a new asset is created. And this makes it really difficult because you have to check your whole website. Okay, where do I use this asset? Replace it with a new one. Here, everything is done automatically. And this is a really very comfortable functionality. So there's also a possibility to create folders. So I can say this is for documents. And you see there are some settings I can set here. So for example, documents only allow documents of type PDF. So I'm not able to put any crap into this folder. There can only be PDF documents, so I'm fine with that. And it's very comfortable for the customer to say, okay, there's a very clean structure. And you see there's also a way to say, okay, there's only allowed a maximum file size or a min or a maximum size of an image and things like that. Okay. We will come back to the asset manager a bit later when we are going to use assets. So the next thing on our application, on our functionality bar here on the left side is the data manager. We will see that also later because we need to do some programming so that we are able to use that. We have the email center. Dom already mentioned it this morning that here you are able to create emails and newsletters and also do some settings for the system emails like a welcome email or password reset instruction. You see here is already a predefined template and you can change it to whatever you want. So that is also a very handy way of do some communication with the customer if necessary. What we have here above is the site settings. This is also a thing that Dom mentioned this morning. You are able to use multiple sites in Preside. So for example, if you have very similar, so I would not say do all your customer projects in one Preside installation. But if you say, okay, I have the main site of the customer, I have a microsite for the customer, or some additional stuff only for an intranet or extranet, you can manage it here. And you can do some settings for the site, which means, okay, which protocol do I use? Of course, in the future, only HTTPS. And what domain name should it listen to, and what domains are redirecting, and stuff like this. Here on the right top, you have a system menu showing you a very interesting menu with some really cool stuff like, you know, there are settings for notifications. There are password policies, for example, to how what is about the password strength and things like that, and two-factor authentication, and the rules engine. We come back to that also, and some system settings. So you can put in some settings here for if you're using a capture, if you have specific settings for the asset manager, and things like that. So we already installed our set up a new page. So we have here our test page, and what we do, what we want to use right now is some extensions, and there is a really cool way to work with that. So, and we are going to have a look into the code for a moment. And the code consists out of two main parts. One of them is the Preside folder, which contains the complete version of Preside that we installed at the beginning. You see here version 10.10, and within this folder, this is the core application. The other thing you have is your application folder. Within this application folder, this is everything you are doing. Means your layouts, your personal assets and CSS files or JavaScript files and forms and stuff you code by yourself. Within here, there is an extension folder, which is currently empty. And the next thing we're going to do is we are going to install an extension. What we meanwhile need, thanks to GDPR, is we need some cookie consent stuff. And luckily, we have already an extension for that on ForgeBox. And the interesting thing about that is that I can just jump to ForgeBox. ForgeBox. And there is some category with preset extensions. And there you see there are already 34 extensions for Mailgun, for there is a theme, there is the admin dashboard stuff, content library stuff, and so on and so on. And we have the cookie consent plugin. And if I have a look into that, there is a small installation documentation, so which means install preset ext cookie consent, and I can just go to my command box, and I'm already in my application folder, and just type install preside ext cookie, and we have some tab completion, and we're going to install that. Again, Preside is, command box is looking for this extension and is copying all the files to the right folder. And if you see, our extension folder now includes a folder called Preside ext cookie consent. So let's look what we also have to do in this thing. There is a documentation how to use that. At the following line below the closing tag in your layout templates, means that one. Okay, let's do that. So here we have a folder called layouts. So this is the main layout. We'll come back to that a bit later. And at the end of this one, we just include this line of code. And to make it active, we have to reload the whole application. Preside is caching a lot of things, so this makes this application really, really fast. But this also means if you are doing some code changes that are in handlers or services and are not in the cache actually, you have to reload that. So there is a command that I can just say, okay, please reload, and we are reloading everything. So, and I'm still here in my system settings, and now I'm reloading this page. And this takes a while because, you know, the cache is cleared and the new files are cached again. It was faster yesterday.
It is worth noting that it's considerably faster on in Unix based, so on OS X.
No, it is not. No, it's not true. No.
It'll start up in under 10 seconds and throw it fresh on.
Maybe a restart of my computer yesterday in the night would be a good idea, but okay. So see. Well, okay, and this changed, and you see here, there is now a system setting called cookie consent. And I can see what it is. So there are some additional settings. Means, okay, is it active? Yes. We put it on we take the theme dark floating. The headline is, we love cookies. And the accept button is, okay, give me one. And there is some more text, yeah.
Change it to accept.
More,
Need something else.
okay. You mean here? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So on here I can link to our cookie policy page. So this is just linking really to a page we created. So actually we do not have created a new page for that. So I can just say, okay, we're going to the 404. That's okay for a moment. And we're going to save this. And when I reload my page in the front end, yes, of course, nothing is happening because I'm logged in as administrator. So I don't need that in this case, but I can just go ahead and open this as a private window. And you see here down there, oh, we have our cookie consent disclaimer. So this is all done by a simple extension, and this is really just a drag and drop functionality, because everything in here in this extension contains the same file structure as the file structure of your application. So is that okay, or just let me do it a bit bigger? Yeah, okay. So, which means that within my extension, I have a forms folder, a handlers folder, and a views folder. And this is exactly the same I have in my application. So this is all inherited within the whole system. This means I can just drag and drop another extension in there. And luckily, I did one yesterday, which means I just need desktop. So let me go to the applications, extensions folder, and let me just copy over the extension I created yesterday. And before we reload the application, we just have a look what is in this application extension. So, in this extension, we have a folder called config with a config CFC. The config CFC file is for creating and managing settings of the whole application. You can create your own variables, enum, stuff, and do some settings. And you see there is a application config file of the basic application, which says, okay, this is your path to the admin, and these are the system users that are allowed to do all the system stuff. Your default locale is English, and there are some additional settings. And for example, here is a setting, and this is quite interesting, called setting features website users enabled, and is set to false. And we are just setting it to true. And we see what we have in our own config. You see this config is only in my extension, but it has impact on the whole application. And here we also have the website users enabled, and we set multilingual, and we enable the form builder. So this is just a setting I'm going to activate right here. And what that means if I reload my application is, and we go to that one. So please have a look on here on the left side. So here we have our site tree, asset management, the data manager, and the email center. And if I'm going to reload that,
Alicia, do you want to explain the developer console quickly?
the developer console, yes, a bit later, because I'm using it for creating a new object. So good point, I will do that. Okay, so I reloaded the whole application. So, and let's reload it. Takes again a few seconds. And a few more seconds.
Database stuff in this one.
Yeah. What's going on in the background? Again, in the background, so Preside checks, okay, I have these new features enabled. You've seen that in the config that I enabled multi-language, I enabled the website users and the form builder. Multi-language means that you're now able, just by activating the setting, that you can create websites with more than one language. So in the afternoon, Steve will show how this works. But basically, this is the one setting you need to activate this. But in the background, Preside is creating all the necessary tables in the database to allow that. So what happened again is that we used the setting and the Preside core for creating our database structure. Okay, so now we see that our left side menu is extended with a point website users, form builder, and basically the multi-language stuff is not stored here, but it is stored in the system settings. So if I go back to my system settings, there is a few more points in the list. One of the website user config, but what we are interested here is the content translations. And we can say our default language is German, and I mean the German, not the Swiss German. And our additional one is English, and hereby I mean the real English. And we can say we use multiple multilingual URLs. So and if I'm going back to the site tree and going to the page, there should already I missed it in the site setting. Tom, help me. What did I wrong?
I think you didn't save the language settings.
Seriously? Oh, shame on me. Content translations? I did.
Are the objects set up to be translatable in your extension?
No, they aren't. No, they aren't. I have to activate this in the code because the interesting thing, you will see that in the afternoon, the interesting thing is that you can allow what kind of objects and fields, and that's the most interesting thing, what fields are allowed to be translatable. The reason for that is that you can define in your forms which fields are translatable. For example, if you have an object for an employee, you want to say, okay, the name is the same in all languages, the phone number is the same in all languages, his room number is the same in all languages, but the description of his job position is different in the different languages. So you can say, okay, just make only this one field available for translation. And this is also a very helpful functionality because then for the end user, the customer is prevented to do some errors because he only is allowed to change these fields that are assigned for the translation. Okay. The next thing we have is our form builder. Because what we need in our in our website is always some kind of contact form or specific forms for quizzes or stuff like that. So, and with this setting I did is a whole bunch of functionality which allows me to create a form, which means I can just say this is a contact form. Okay, keep it in English, contact. And send data is the submit button, and the confirmation message is thank you for your data. And in this case, we're not protecting it with a captcha, and we are not setting it. We are not defining an active from and to date, which is quite interesting because if you, for example, have a quiz, and you know it's running from 1st of December until end of December, you can just go ahead and say, okay, this is the date period where it is visible. Then you're completely fine with that. So we're going to create this form, and now we can put in some fields. So, for example, we just go ahead and say, okay, we need a text box with full name. The database field is just name, and this is a mandatory field. And we need his email address for selling it afterwards. We say email, and the field in the database is email. This is also mandatory. And he should start rating our website, so we are putting in a star rating field. Rate our service rating, and the number of stars is 5, and we are not allowing half stars, and this field is not mandatory. And we are putting in a text area, and we just say message to us. And this is also not mandatory. And if we are going to the next tab, we can do some post action. For example, we can just go ahead here and say, please, if someone is filling out this form, send an email to the administrator with the subject contact information, and the address is office at ABCDE, and the sending address is not necessary because it's maybe set somewhere. But then you can do a conditions. We're coming to the conditions a bit later. And I can go ahead and say save. And now my form just needs to be activated. And that's it. Okay. So now our form is ready to use in our website. So we're going back to the site tree. And on our test page, and within here, we are clicking on this little icon with the magic wand, which allows us to add some widgets. And these widgets are really, the concept of widgets is really very, very cool, because you can simply create your own widgets. I will show it later, and just use them for whatever kind of need you have. So we are going to choose our form builder thing like here. And we can select our form and put it in and publish the page. And reload the page. And we have a ready to run form. That's it. So the full name is required, so we are putting in the full name. An email is required. Aha, and it also already validates if this is a valid email address. So we can just go ahead and say, it's my email address, and we are rating the service with 4 stars and are sending the data. Okay. The error that now occurs is very obvious because it says, hey, you do not have defined a mail server for sending out the emails, and that's true because this is just a test installation. Of course, it's not sending out an email right now, and that's why it's creating the error message. But what is happening is that in the backend, when I go back to the form builder and go to my specific form, I already see a submission, a form submission. So and here, this is submitted by an anonymous user, submitted on this date, and I can have a look into that. And see the data that is entered by the user. So you see the name, the email address, and the rating, and so on. So whenever you have something like a quiz or whatever you need, you can use this data and use it later to export it on this little button to an Excel file. So, and now if I'm going to open that, you see that all the data that is submitted is stored in the database and can be used, for example, for later usage as an Excel form. Do you know how I did the registration for CFChem? Exactly like this. So the CFChem website is nothing else than a Preside website that is doing exactly this. So whenever someone is registering or using the contact form or something like that, it's the exact same way to do it, and it works really perfectly. Okay, coming back to some different things. The next thing we activated is the website users. And the website users is a really nice thing because it already allows you, with the basic functionality, to create parts of your website that are only accessible for specific users and groups. So it's a ready-to-run extranet functionality you can use for that. First of all, you're going to add a benefit. What means benefit? We struggle a lot while translating this word to German, because in German this is really a hard one, because it's we started with user group, but it's not really a kind of user group, but yes, it is a kind of. The benefit is more or less, and here you see already the example. Then the benefit, for example, here is gold membership, and this is what it explains it really good, because membership. Okay, because here you can create your benefits that can be assigned to users, and on your website you can say, okay, this part is visible for silver members, gold members, platinum members. You are able to combine them. For example, if you say gold membership, let's create this and create another one and say we are going to create a platinum membership. You can sign. You can go ahead and say, okay, platinum membership also includes all benefits of a gold membership. You can here exclusive or inclusive use that. You have permissions to restricted assets and the restricted pages. And if I use that for a user, so I can add a website user and can say Beispiel .de, and here I can say, okay, this one is a gold member or platinum member or things like that. And to use it properly on your website, you can go ahead in your site tree and edit the page. And under access control, you can create different kinds of access to this page. For example, this page requires a logged in user, a full login. We are going to grant access to the following to the following benefits. We are denying access to these specific memberships, or you can explicitly grant access to specific users. So if you know your customer says, yeah, okay, I know you're not a gold member, but you're getting access to this page, you can do it here. So that's a very simple thing. Okay. Alex said I should show the developer console, and I will do that because what we missed right now is the data manager. And this data manager is a really good way to organize your personal and internal data. So what we had right now is really content management system stuff. But the most times you're not using it for websites because you have your own products, you have your own customers in the database, and you need to manage them. And so we are going to add our own object and make it accessible and with all the necessary functions we need. So what I can do right now is, and I need to show this next to our code, because you need to see what is going on here in the code. So I need this one open, and this one open, and this one open. And what we are doing now, and unfortunately, can I make this?
It's quite visible.
It's quite visible? Yeah, okay. So what we are going to do, we are using the developer console. And the developer console is really a very, very helpful tool asset for developers, which allows us to use a lot of commands. Like here, we already had the reload thing, and there is some caching information and debugging information. And what we can do is we can go ahead and create new objects. So if I type
Just to
in,
mention that maybe because I had some troubles to find that console.
well, that is a hard one.
It's a part of the browser. So
It's-
right.
Yeah, it's
So
exactly.
It runs in the browser and not on the command line.
Yes.
Yeah. This is a browser function, and the hard thing about this is that the browsers, the shortcut on the keyboard is created by some guys living in London with an English keyboard. Yes, that's the thing why it's not really funny for us with the German keyboard, because we on Firefox I need to hit 3 keys at the same time to get it open. It's easier in Chrome, and the most easy thing that someone told me from IDG is just putting in a JavaScript function, which is doing this one, Preside terminal toggle, and so I just can.
You can remap the key as well.
Yeah, you can remap the key.
That's cool.
That's also a way. You can remap the key. There is a documentation where it says, okay, this is your key code. So if you put it on, for example, Control A or something like that, that's possible. But this one is also a very handy one because you can just click on it, and that's it. This functionality is only available for system administrators. So we have seen that in the config file that there is a list of users that are system users, and this is only available for really system administrators. So if someone is logging in as not as administrator for your application, so he can use the backend, but he's not a system administrator, he's not able to use that. Okay, and what we are going to do is that we are creating something new. So what we are going to do is we are just hitting new, and we are getting a list with possible options. So we are able to create a new widget, we can create a new page type, we can create a new object or whatever. And what we do right now is we are going to create a new object. We are creating an object called article. And the name, the friendly name is article. Yes, and the plural of it is articles. And no, we have no description right now. We will put it in a data manager group. You see why we are going to do that. So we just say here stock. And now we are going to put in the properties we need in our object, which is title. Then we have max items. Sorry. Title, description, and price. So the extension name is we leave empty. Okay, now it tells us your Preside object article has been scaffolded, the following files were created, and you see what 3 files are created right now. And here you see that is these 3. So is that readable? And you see here on the left side in our code, we exactly have this. So we now have a Preside objects article file. We have an i18n Preside objects groups stock properties file and the article properties, which is filled with the data we set in our wizard. And now we are going back to our application and need again to reload everything, because at the moment Preside does not know about this object. And I promise it was faster yesterday evening, really.
Does it run fine on the default memory settings, or you need to have larger memory?
No, there's just no specific memory settings, so that's default settings.
Preside command actually sets the command box 1. I think it sets it to 1024.
Yeah, okay.
Min and max.
So, and if we are back in our data manager, we now see that there is a group called stock and an object called articles. And if I go into this, I can add an article with the fields we just created. You can see there is a label field. We can say, okay, we use that for article number. So this is our first article, and article 1, and a small description, and it costs 123 euros. And we are going to create another one, saying second article with some description, and it costs a bit more. And here we have our 2 objects created with the possibility to view the article, to edit the article, to all the CRUD stuff you heavily need to code by yourself if you're not using a framework like this. And Preside is doing all this for you, including as a new feature in 10.10 is the functionality to clone records. Dom talked about that this morning already, and I guess there will be some very, very cool documentation about that in a few days. So this is really a very, very handy functionality you can use in there. Okay, so let's go back to our code to see what else we did here. So we have our i18n files for the descriptions and the translations. We have our object, which is created automatically, and this is not very specific. This is just creating you the properties, but not the type and stuff like this. So okay, you have to do some bit of the coding later on, but at the moment you have your object and it works out of the box. And now we would like to use that. So what I did yesterday is I created in my extension just let me fold this together. I created a handler, handlers, widgets, article list, which does really just a very simple thing. It is just doing a select of all the data of our article object and is ordering it by the label ascending, and it's rendering it with this file. And if we look into this file, it is just a really plain dump, just to show you the result of the data. No fancy stuff for the presentation. And if we are going back to this, you see there is also a form widget article list, which is basically empty because we do not have any settings here. But these 3 files allow me to go to our page and remove this one and push the widget button, and it creates a widget, yes, without some description here, and it has no more fancy stuff in there, and I push publish, and I'm going back to our test page, and it's doing exactly what I did in the handler. So I did a select statement with a select function on the article. This is the result, and I'm just dumping it with my view. That's it. So what I did within 5 minutes is I created an object, I created a widget, and I'm outputting the data of the widget. Hey, that's really simple. That's no kind of magic. That's really simple. And it's extremely powerful because you are able to create objects how you like to, with the relations, one to many, many to many, with really a lot of stuff, and it's going to be really complicated. We have applications running with 20, 30 objects which are related between each other, tables, objects that are used as data for other things and something like that. And it's really a lot of save time with Preside, because we do not have to do all the CRUD stuff, because everything is out of the box. You just need to create the definition of the objects and the forms, and basically that's it. There's one thing I would, yeah, Dom, okay.
No, I was just gonna say.
There's one thing I would like to show you. It only takes 2 minutes, but this is really fancy, and you should see what it can be used for. Because in Preside there is another very cool feature, and I've never seen that in another content management system. And this is also a widget which is called conditional content. Okay, conditional content means I can create a condition, and based on the true or false of this condition, I can show a specific content. So this is the content for true, and here for false. And here I can create specific conditions and filters and rules when to allow to show which version of this, the true value or the false value. And there, for example, I can say here are some expressions you can use in this library. For example, the browser user manager, user agent. For example, I can say, okay, if this user agent contains Internet Explorer, show me the true content. Otherwise, show me the false content. So for Internet Explorer, here's your link to get Firefox or something like that. And only show this on Tuesdays. And only between specific dates. So Tuesdays between 1st of December, 1st of November, and end of November. So I'm also have the possibility to group and change the order of these rules to make this possible. So this sounds very, very, this is just for fun. But the true strength is if you do this. There are a lot of expressions for website users. And here you can say, user has visited a page a number of times. So if I say, the user has visited our test page, more than 3 times, in the last 2 days, then show a specific information. This is really a cool function, because here you are able to say, okay, the customer is on this page the 3rd time since this morning. What about showing him an information? Can I help you? And this is really a great functionality you can use for that. You see, there are a lot of expressions already in the library. The user has downloaded an attachment. The user has performed some action a number of times. Or when the user is logged in or has visited some pages or something like that.
A good example would be if the user has requested a forgotten password more than once and has not yet logged in, then show a message saying, having problems logging, get in touch.
Yeah, for example.
But does user mean session, or is it logged in user, or what does it mean?
Both. So some will be for a logged in user, in which case that wouldn't work. But there is session as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is really a very, very useful functionality. And everything in Preside, really everything except the logo, can be overwritten. So if you have an application that is changing the left side of your menu bar, you're free to do that. The only thing is, the only restriction, it's right, more or less? So, yeah, okay. But if you say, oh, I need additional expressions, go ahead. Code your own expressions. Why not?
One thing
You
as
can
well
do
is
that.
if you create an object and relate it into website user, then the expressions will get automatically generated for you. So if you relate in something called favorite colors, and you also color, and then you relate it in under under favorite colors, then the expressions will automatically be generated. So then you can say if the user has this and their favorite color is black, then
Yeah, a lot of fancy stuff included already. The rest you can do by yourself by doing extensions. We did that for customer a lot. We really created small things like sliders on the home page and specific things. We created them as extensions, and for the next project you can just drag and drop it in. That's it. So also this is a very, very comfortable way to extend your application. So this was the last function I wanted to show you. Thank you very much for your attention.
Cool, thank you, Mishi. Suggest we take 5 minutes tops, bathroom break or however long. Yeah, and aim to be back by 11:30 and we'll